Why, hello there, everyone. What's up, Hope? Ah, you're the first one. Good job. Glad you're here. What's up, Lush? I'm glad you're here. Hey, Wing Chun. How's it going? Malik. Hello. What's up, Casey? You were on my side of the country the last couple of days? Oh, yeah? Fresno? Oh, Fresno is like a couple of hours away. Yeah. What were you doing? And how was it? What's up, Sunny Side Up? How's it going? Hey, Rude Noise. I'm glad you're here. All right. Shall we do the Wordle? Wordle of the day. It's gonna be a quick one today, I think. I can feel it. Motorcycle. Okay. Okay. She got all of that, right? Yeah. Alright. Okay. You guys can see the screen, right? Okay, good. What's up, Nikki? How's it going? Alright. Let's do this. Stomp. Oh. Rapper. Party. No Y. Parsley. Park. Parks. Parky. Porky. Park. Parn. Parvy. Park. Parks. Pardon. Par. Track party. Okay, nope. Okay. P. Rappa. Rapna. Rapal. Radpad. Rafa. ARXP. XA. How about that? What does that spell? Rap. No. Maybe it doesn't start with any of that? Trap. No T. Rap. Wrapped. Rappa. Wrapped. Rad. Rave. Dup. Rap. Drapes. Oh god. Wrapped. Is that a word? That's a word? Okay. Craps. Crabbed. Craft. Crap. Crapple. Crap. Oh, graph. Maybe graph. Yeah, it's probably graph. Ah! Yes. Oh. Audio is too... Oh, shit. I know what happened. Hold on. Oh, yeah? How's the audio now, huh? Huh? What do you think? The shape of the board is the answer. Oh, good job. All right. Okay, let's get started. I'm going to read the whole chapter today, so we can get started pretty quick. I have... Ta-da! It's shrimp chips. And it says, rich in shrimp flavor, but salt off. Can you believe it? It's salt off, guys. You didn't check the grammar. So apparently has a lot of shrimp flavor, but salt free. Can you believe it? I'll see if I can believe it. Oh, it smells so good. Woo! That is some shrimp flavor. You didn't want to just give away the answer? Well, I don't look at the chat when I do it, so you wouldn't be giving it away. Look, it's kind of like Cheetos, but shrimp flavor, I guess. Yeah. Let's see. And try another one. I'm not sure. At first, it's really shrimpy. I don't like it. But then the taste turns a little bit less shrimpy, and it tastes pretty good. And there's an aftertaste of shrimpiness, which I don't like. It's a roller coaster inside my mouth. I think overall, probably not a fan. I'm gonna say it's a 5 out of 10. It's too shrimpy. I need less shrimp flavor. Oh my god. I like the Cheetos taste though. Yep. I like the fact that it's salt off. All right. You guys ready? All right. So, shrimp chips taste like shrimp. Confirmed. True. You ready? What happened last week? Well, let me tell you. So last week, Dingan, our hero, is still in prison. All right. And he actually was super bored, and then he protected his prison mate from the guards once. Because remember, the guards keep taking his prison mate out of prison and beating him, trying to get some information out of him. So he protects the guard, the prison mate from the guards one time. but the guy still doesn't trust him. Now, one day, one of the men of the Wan family, okay, remember that this is the family of Di Yun's martial uncle. A guy comes. He tells Di Yun that his martial sister is getting married to the son of the Wan family, that Wan Gui guy. And he's super sad. We also learned that the martial uncle did not die, still alive, and it seemed like he didn't have that serious of a wound, even though it seemed pretty serious at the time. We thought he died. So it seems like it was all a trick by the martial uncle to frame Di Yun's master and also frame Di Yun at the same time. Yeah, so maybe they worked together, the martial uncle and his son, because it looks like his son also wants the martial sister as his wife. Okay, so yeah, so the scheme, I guess it did two things. One, it made the martial sister become the wife of Wan Gui, and two, it framed Di Yun's master, which it seems like the martial uncle wants to do. That's what it seems like. Yeah. So, anyways, we find out that his master is still on the run. All right. The martial sister has been hanging out at the Wan family residence. And I guess she's getting married now. Okay. We don't know if she's willingly getting married or she's being forced to. It's kind of suspicious that she didn't visit Di Yun. I would think that she would visit him. Anyways, so that happened, and Di Yun is all sad, and Di Yun hangs himself. All right, he's like, "It's all over, guys. There's nothing to live for. I'm gonna hang myself." And he does that. He goes, "Ugh." But then his cellmate saves him using some top tier martial arts called the Heavenly Glow technique. And he saves him. And the guy says that now he believes that Di Yun is not a spy. And he introduces himself as Dingan. Okay, so Dingan thought that Di Yun was a spy the entire time, and that's why he didn't trust him. But now that he sees that Di Yun has just hung himself, he's like, oh, a spy probably wouldn't do that. So they become friends. And Ding Dian wants to teach Di Yun the Heavenly Glow martial arts. But Di Yun refuses because he says, well, it's useless. We're not getting out of this prison anyways, so why would I want to do that? Little does he know that Ding Dian is super strong and he could leave the prison anytime he wants. So apparently he's staying here because out of choice. Okay, so and then what happened was that Ding Dian has a bunch of people visiting him, trying to get some manual out of him. Okay, and Ding Dian tells them that Yan Da Ping stole the manual, and Yan Da Ping is Di Yun's second martial uncle. All right, and remember, if you remember, we know that the Grand Master had this manual, had this like strong martial arts manual, the Lian Cheng manual, and someone stole it from him. And probably killed him when they did it. But yeah. So that's kind of weird. Yeah. So who is this Ding Dian guy? And what is his relation to the Grandmaster and the martial uncles and his master? We don't know. Uh-huh. Yeah. Could he be the second martial uncle? Or could he be the Grandmaster? He seems kind of young to be the Grandmaster, right? We don't get a sense that he's super old. Yeah. And I'm kind of thinking that beggar is the Grandmaster. Yeah, because the beggar is like, hey, don't reveal my identity, or my life will be in danger. So my theory is that the beggar is the Grandmaster. Maybe. Or it could be the second martial uncle. Anyways, so all these people come try to get the manual from Dingan. Dingan kills all of them. All right. And then one day, on the 4th year that they're in prison, we see that the flowers outside the cell were not renewed. So it looks, so Dingan keeps looking at these flowers outside his cell. Okay, and he seems to be they seem to be pretty important. We don't know why yet, but then one day it looks like no one has been renewing those flowers. So he looks super sad. We're not sure why. And Di-yoon convinces him to go out and investigate what happened. And that was what happened. How's that? What's up, Bigfoot? Nice of you to join. All right. So this is A Deadly Secret, Chapter 3. Get a cool little picture. Someone outside a residence. It's snowy. Who is this? Is this our main character? All right, Chapter 3, Pale as Chrysanthemum. Di-yoon followed Dingan out of the shop. Oh yeah, they escaped. Oh, I forgot about that. They escaped from the prison, guys. And they got the shackles removed because Dingan strong-armed this blacksmith. Once Di-yoon's shackles were removed, his entire body felt much lighter, and walking became a breeze. He was not used to this. Several times his head felt heavy, and his legs felt light, and he nearly toppled over. But he saw that Dingan's movements were unflustered. In fact, he was even walking faster and faster, so he could not help but rush himself to keep up, in fear that they may be separated in darkness. In a short period of time, the two of them arrived at the location where the basket of flowers was placed near the windowsill. Dingan lifted his head and hesitated for a long while. It seemed that he wanted to enter, yet he was unwilling. Ding-yoon saw that the window was shut tightly, and in the building there was no noise. He suggested, "I will go in first, all right?" Dingan nodded his head in agreement. Di-yoon reached the front entrance of the small building and extended his hands to push the door, then realized that the interior of the door was bolted shut. Thankfully, the enclosure was somewhat low, so with a willow tree branch, he brought it through the wall, and with a small leap, he grabbed onto the branch and turned over his body and entered the enclosure. Inside, there was a small door that actually was unlatched. Di-yoon pushed open the door and proceeded to the second floor. In the darkness, he could hear nothing but the creaking sounds emitted from his flight up the stairs. His feet felt as if they were floating, giving him an eerie feeling of discomfort. In the past 5 years, he was used to walking only around his prison cell. Soon Di-yoon reached the top of the stairs. He remained silent and listened carefully, but there were no sounds to be heard. In dim lighting, he saw a door on the left, so he decided to check it out. Inside the room, it was so quiet he could not even hear any breathing sounds. He faintly saw a candle standing on the table. He extended his hands to the table and could feel a knife and a flint, so he ignited a fire and illuminated the candle. Under the bright light, he suddenly had an indescribable sense of loneliness and misery. The room was completely empty. With the exception of a table, a chair, and a bed, there was nothing else. On the bed hung a grass green white curtain, a thin quilt, and a cloth pillow. Below the bed was a green pair of female shoes. There was only one pair of shoes, so whoever lived here was likely a female. Wait, are you sure? If it was a female, then shouldn't she have like 10 pairs of shoes? Fine, it was a pair of female shoes. He felt expressionless for a moment, then he headed to the second room. This one did not even have a table or a chair. It was just like the other room. Either the furniture was recently moved, or throughout all these years it had remained empty the whole time. He went downstairs and searched each and every room in the house, but not a single person was to be found. He felt something was wrong and reported his findings to Ding Dian. The latter said, "You found nothing?" Li Yun nodded his head. It seemed that Ding Dian had already anticipated this ahead of time, so he did not feel the least bit surprised. Instead, he suggested that they search someplace else. That someplace else was actually a mansion. The door was lacquered vermilion, and on top of the door hung two big lanterns pinned by a large copper nail. On one was inscribed the words Jingzhou Prefectural Hall, and on the other the words Ling Mansion. Di Yun was taken aback. This is the prefectural hall of Qingzhou's magistrate. Brother Ding, what did you come here for? Do you wish to kill him? Lady Koi, oh, you don't have a car or a license? Why not? What happened? You had quite a few lessons and nearly passed the test 3 times. Well, that was 20 years ago. Ding Dian grasped him by the hand, and without saying a word, he jumped over the wall. He was somewhat familiar with the surroundings of the prefecture. He passed through the porch and over a building directly, as if he was walking around his own residence. After passing through 2 corridors, he arrived outside the door of the reception room. A brightness from inside the room penetrated the paper of the window. Ding Dian suddenly trembled violently and said, "Brother Di, go have a look inside." Di Yun pushed open the reception door and was welcomed by a dazzling candle light. On the table, the two white candles were illuminated. It was actually a funeral hall. All this time he was worried that he would see a funeral hall, coffin, or a dead body, and now it was right in front of him. He had already anticipated this, but still he could not resist trembling. When he focused his attention on the soul board, he saw that it was inscribed 8 words, resting place of beloved daughter Ling Xuanghua. The soul board, I guess that's the um 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 that's like the memorial tablet. Suddenly, he felt a huge gust of wind blowing from behind as Ding Dian rushed inside. Severe anxiety? Oh no. Oh. Yeah, well, I hope you do it someday. Yeah, cars are pretty useful. Ding Dian stood expressionless for a moment. Then he threw himself on the table and let out a loud cry of grief. Ah, Shuanghua, you really did go before me. Who is Ling Shuanghua? In a split second, many thoughts erupted in Di Yun's mind. As Ding Dian cried on the table, it served to explain all of his bizarre actions in the prison cell. Di Yun now understood the situation completely, but upon further contemplation, there were still many things that were difficult to explain. Ding Dian disregarded the fact that he was a serious felon who broke out of prison. He did not care that he was currently at the residence of the magistrate. He only cried his heart out in sadness. Di Yun knew that there was nothing he could do to better the situation, so he only let things take its course. After crying for a while, Ding Dian slowly stood up straight and extended his hands to uncover the curtains. Behind the curtains was actually a coffin. With both hands, he hugged the coffin tightly. His face fit snugly on the lid. He sobbed and sniffled. Shuanghua, Shuanghua, why do you have to be so cruel? Before you went, why didn't you tell me to see you one last time? Suddenly, Di Yun heard the sounds of light approaching footsteps. He could sense that people were approaching rapidly from outside, and quickly said, "Big brother, someone is coming." Ding Dian kissed the coffin passionately and paid no attention. Passionately? Oh my god. Soon they were interrupted by a bright fire. Two men entered the room holding a lit torch. One said, "Who is making such a ruckus?" The two were middle-aged men, about 45 or 46, dressed in luxurious clothing and with an essence of valiance on their faces. He gave a glance at Ding Dian and asked, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" Di Yun's heart became filled with rage, and he countered, "And who are you? What are you doing here?" They're probably guards. The man holding the torch reprimanded, "Little thief! This man is the magistrate of Jingzhou." Oh no. "You have some nerve to come here in the middle of the night. Are you trying to start a rebellion? Kneel before him." Di Yun laughed grimly and did not make a move. Benjamin. Tablet? Oh yeah, tablet. Yeah, you're kind of lagging behind. Lagging behind the stream. Yeah, you can change the stream to go at double speed, so you can reach the present if you want. Ding Dian wiped his tears and asked, "When did Shuanghua pass away? What disease did she contract?" His voice was completely at peace. Oh, never mind. Let's do that again. "When did Shuanghua pass away? What disease did she contract?" His voice was completely at peace. Magistrate Ling glanced at the speaker and replied, "Oh, I know who it is. It is Hero Ding. My daughter has unfortunately passed away. Thank you for your condolences and expressions of sympathy. My daughter has already passed away for 5 days. The physicians could not identify the cause of death and could only say it was an accumulation of sadness and difficulties." Now your desires have been fulfilled," remarked Ding Dian angrily. Magistrate Ling sighed. "Hero Ding, you are indeed very stubborn. If you had spoken out much earlier, my daughter would not have died. In fact, you would be my son-in-law. Wouldn't that be great?" Ding Dian said loudly, "You claim that I caused Shuanghua's death? You're telling me it wasn't you who caused her death?" As he said this, he moved forward one step towards the magistrate, his eyes full of cruel and vicious intent. Magistrate Ling remained unflustered. and shook his head in discord. It has already happened. Why speak of it further? Shuanghua, Shuanghua, under the 9 springs, you probably fault your father for not forgiving you. Under the 9 springs. Analogous to hell, I see. He slowly approached the soul board. He leaned against the table with his left hand and wiped his tears with his right. Bells for Ding's love? Yeah, why not? Dingdian replied densely. Suppose that I kill you today. Then in heaven, Shuanghua will most certainly not forgive me. Ling Tuixi, out of respect for your daughter, the torture you gave me for the past 7 years, today, I will write it off with one stroke. Henceforth, if you harass me any further, don't fault the one with the surname Ding for being heartless. Brother D, let's go. Magistrate Ling sighed. Hero Ding, today we have come to such a conclusion. Tell me, what good does it bring? Dingdian replied. In the clearness of the night, console your heart and ask yourself if you feel a little ashamed. You long for nothing but a deadly secret, and you are even willing to sacrifice your beloved daughter. A Deadly Secret is the name of that martial arts manual. The Lianqing manual? She died of missing him, yep. Magistrate Ling said, Hero Ding, don't be in a hurry to leave. You are better off reciting the secrets of the sword manual, and I will grant you the antidote. Else you may perish. He still wants the sword manual. Dingdian was shocked. What? What antidote? At this time, he suddenly felt that his cheeks, lips, and palms were becoming numb, and at the same time he could smell a dull fragrance of flowers. Such fragrance of flowers, such fragrance of flowers. He felt alarmed and furious. His body began to shake violently. Magistrate Ling said, I was afraid there would be an unworthy fellow that would disturb my daughter so. Dingdian came to a realization and shouted in anger. Oh god, the coffin was poisoned. And he was tongue kissing it the entire time. He was French kissing it. You smeared the poison on the coffin? Ling Tui Si, you are very malicious. He got up and tried to attack with a fist, but he did not expect that the poison was indeed so powerful. At that moment his entire body felt weak and his bones felt crushed. He could not unleash the power of the heavenly glow. Wait, the Liancheng manual and a deadly secret are two different things? A deadly secret is the Liancheng code. Now I'm confused. What the hell is the Liancheng code? Is the Liancheng code the martial arts that's within the manual? Magistrate Ling Tui Su dodged the attack, and his movements somewhat nimble. From this time, 4 men entered, wielding swords and sabers, all aiming for Dingdian at once. Shit, it's a trap. Dingdian raised his left leg and kicked the wrist of the man on the left. Usually, this kick would be extremely remarkable, and the saber on the person's hand should be kicked out. But during it, he felt that his entire body was weak and could not release any strength. He suddenly became stagnant. It turned out that the toxicity had reached his legs. The man turned over the back of his saber and with a bang hit Dingan hard on his upper leg. Dingan's bone felt shattered as he fell on the ground. We don't know what it is now. We just know that it's called the Liancheng Code, probably related to the Liancheng Manual. Oh. Oh, well, it's got to be related, right? Why would they be named similarly? Dumb ways to let your child die. Yeah. The man turned over the back of his saber. Oh, wait. Ding Dian's bone felt shattered as he fell on the ground. Di Yun was alarmed. He was frightened and did not have any time for contemplation. He decided to jump at Ling Tui Su, thinking that he could possibly hold him as a hostage in order to save Ding Dian. But he did not expect that Ling Tui Su unleashed an attack with his left palm, and with a loud cry hit him hard on the chest. Yeah, the armor is doing a lot of work. The technique and strength of this palm was quite impressive. Di Yun had long pushed aside any considerations for the value of his own life, and without hesitation he continued his assault. It was quite obvious that the palm of Ling Tui Su had directly struck Di Yun in the chest, yet the latter disregarded it. Ling Tui Su did not realize that his opponent actually wore a valuable dark silkworm vest underneath that protected his body. Even though Ling Tui Su's martial arts were formidable, he became flustered. With his left hand, Di Yun struck the Shanzhong acupoint on his opponent's chest. Following this stroke of success, Di Yun approached Ding Dian immediately and carried the latter on his back, while with his left hand he continued to hold Ling Tui Su by his acupoint. The four armed men were in a scruple, uttered profanities, but did not dare to act rashly. Ding Dian demanded, "Throw the torch away and blow out the candle." The man holding the torch did not dare to object, and in an instant the funeral hall turned pitch black. With his left hand, Di Yun grabbed Ling Tui Su by the chest, and with his right hand he helped support Ding Dian, and they quickly backed away. Ding Dian gave directions, and not before long they arrived beside the door of the garden. Di Yun kicked open the door and emanated a forceful punch on Ling Tui Su's Shanzhong acupoint. Then he grabbed Ding Dian and ran away. In the darkness, they urgently rushed out of the scene. Di Yun had already studied the Heavenly Glow Sutra for 2 years. Even though it may not be said that he had any significant accomplishment, his internal energy was not superficial. When he punched Ling Tui Su in such anger and haste, he actually released quite a bit of force. It happened to hit his opponent exactly on a crucial acupoint on his chest. After Ling Tui Su was hit, he uttered a melancholic groan and fainted. His bodyguards were startled and could only think about rescuing their master, and abandoned the thought of chasing the two assailants. Ding Dian felt his arms and legs become more and more numb, yet he was still fully conscious. He was quite familiar with the surroundings of Jianliang County in Jingzhou, so he gave directions to Di Yun, turning left and turning right. Not before long, they distanced themselves from the noisiness of the city, and soon arrived at an abandoned garden. Ding Dian said, "The Ling Prefecture will most certainly give an order to block the city gate so as to increase vigilance and interrogation. My poison has become quite cumbersome, so I can't leave the city. This abandoned garden has often been said to contain ghosts, so no one would dare to come. We will take refuge here first and discuss it later." Di Yun helped escort him under a plum tree and said, "Brother Ding, what poison have you contracted? Is it curable?" Ding Dian sighed a few times and laughed bitterly. "It's no good. I contracted the acute poison of the golden ripple flower, and under heaven there is no antidote that can cure me. However long I can endure, I will endure. Diyun was taken aback. His entire body degenerated into a cold system. He trembled. Oh, what? Are you joking? Deep in his heart, he knew that Dingan was not joking. Dingan said, "The toxicity of the golden ripple flower of Ling Tui Su is extremely lethal. In the past, I only sniffed it a few times, and I passed out instantly. This time it has entered my flesh. How do I have any chance?" Diyun replied, "Brother Ding, don't be sad. Stay strong. Alas, when it comes to relationships, I am the same. There is no method to that. You should think of a way to cure your poison first. I will fetch some water for you to cleanse." In his heart, he spoke in haste, so what he regurgitated was rather nonsensical. Ding Dian shook his head. "It's no use. Should the poison of the golden ripple flower be washed, my flesh will instantly swell and necrose. I will die an even more painful death. Brother D, I have many things I want to say to you. Don't be rushed and muddled. If you become disorderly, I may leave out by mistake any important things I need to say. There's not much time left. I must speak. Allow me to sit here in peace, and don't interrupt my speech." Diyun could only sit by his side, but in his heart, how could he find any peace or quiet? Dingdian spoke smoothly, as if he was speaking as a third person, a person who was completely irrelevant to him. "I am a citizen of Jingmen. I come from a family of martial artists. My father could be considered a reputable fellow in Lianghu." Lianghu translates to two lakes, which refers to both Hubei and Hunan. Okay. My potential for martial arts was also decent. Besides learning from family traditions, I also had two teachers. Afterwards, my parents passed away, and I was left with a decent fortune. I did not want to speak of marriage, and only focused on my martial arts, and made some friends in the realm. That was 15 years ago. I traveled by ship to Sichuan province and passed the three gorges of Yangtze. The three gorges on the Yangtze River refer to the Kutang Gorge, the Wuxia Gorge, and the Xiling Gorge. Okay. And the ship anchored at the town of Sandoping. That night, I heard fighting sounds on the ship. My whole life, I was a martial arts fanatic, so naturally, I was curious. I observed the battle through a window. That night, the moonlight was bright, and I could see very clearly three people besieging an elder. The three men were considered well-known figures in the martial arts world of Lianghu, so I could recognize them. One was the five-cloud hand, Wan Junshan. Diyun interrupted. "Ah, that is my martial uncle." The other was Divine Land Dragon, Yan Da Ping. Oh. Diyun said, "Yes, this is my second martial uncle, although I have never seen him before." The third one wielded a long sword. His skills were vigorous and nimble. It was Iron Lock across the river, Qi Jiang Fa. Diyun was startled and called out, "It's my teacher." Wait, so all three of them were attacking their master? Because this elder could be their master, right? Could be the grandmaster. Were all three disciples traitors? Unless this elder is someone else. Wan Jinshan and I once had the fate of several encounters, so I knew that his martial arts were not to be taken lightly. I was vastly inferior to him at the time. I saw the three of them, martial brothers, join forces to attack the enemy. It may be assumed that they certainly had good odds of success. The elder had already sustained an injury on his back and was shedding blood repeatedly. Furthermore, he was unarmed and only fought against the three of them with his bare hands. But his martial arts were much superior to Wang Junshan and the others, so the three of them did not dare to draw near. The more I observed, the more indignant I felt. I saw that every move unleashed by Wang Junshan and the others were filled with murderous intent. It was evident that they wanted to kill the elder. I did not dare to speak out, fearing that they would notice me. Then disaster would impede upon me. In the realm, when animosity and murder were seen by onlookers, it was often the case that they too would be killed. Okay, so Dingan is not one of the disciples. After fighting for half a day, the back of the elder shed more and more blood. He actually could not continue battle any further, and suddenly declared, "Very well, I will hand it over to you. It is the master." He extended his hands to fish out an object from his bosom. Wang Zhenshan and the others all rushed forward at once, seemingly afraid that any other person would vie for the object first. All of a sudden, the elder pushed both palms forward. The three martial brothers were extorted by the elder's palm energy, and they all retreated at once. The elder turned around and rushed, and with a splash he jumped into the lake. The three men shouted in alarm and hurried to the river bank. Oh, the manual is destroyed. It's all wet now. All the ink has run. So all three were bad disciples? The Yangtze River pours down from the three gorges. How rapid is the current of the river in Sandoping! In merely a flash, the elder was nowhere to be seen. But your teacher refused to reconcile. He jumped on my boat, seized the bamboo paddle, and in a burst scattered around the river. The three men caused the death of the elder. They should have been delighted, but all three of them appeared dreadful. They did not dare to look too much, and I did not dare to look too much, and covered my head in the quilt. I could hear the faint sounds of their bickering. They seemed to be blaming each other. I listened as they walked very far away before I dared come out of hiding, when suddenly, above the trees, a loud cracking sound was heard. The helmsman yelled, "Ah, there are water ghosts!" I turned my head to look, and all I could see was a person drenched in water lying on the floor of the plank. It was, in fact, the elder. It turned out that after he jumped into the river, he swam beneath the ship. Then he used a strong eagle claw attack to hook onto the bottom of it, focused on his breathing, and waited until his enemies left before he resurfaced. I quickly helped him inside the ship. I saw that his breathing was faint, and he could not speak. Sounds like the three brothers were never that good people. Yeah. Yeah, all three don't seem good. I thought that if Wang Zhenshan and the others did not drop the matter, they would most certainly go underwater to look for the corpse of the elder. But I had a sense of justice and wanted to save his life, so I ordered the boatman to steer upstream against the three gorges. Naturally, the boatman was unwilling, and in the middle of the night another laborer was nowhere to be seen. Else, how hard could it be to travel up the three gorges? but nevertheless, money will make the devil turn millstones. I happened to carry some pain relief medicine, so I helped the elder treat his injury. But the wound on his back was caused by a very deep stab of the sword. It even pierced his lungs, hence the injury could not be recovered. I could only try my best and did not ask him anything. I saw with my very own eyes how he leaped into the river and dove beneath the ship. Such courage and martial arts was worthy of me risking my life for him. After 3 days of treatment, the elder asked for my surname, gave a bitter laugh, and said, "Very good, very good," and from his bosom produced a paper bag and handed it to me. I said, "Where are the relatives of the elder? I will certainly bring you to them without neglect." The elder replied, "Do you know who I am?" I replied, "I don't know." He said, "I am Mei Niang Sheng." Naturally, my state of shock was no small matter. Why? Don't you feel odd? Do you know who Mei Niang Sheng is? He is Ironbone Ink Calyx, Mei Niang Sheng. Do you really not know? Diyun shook his head and said, "I have never heard of this name." Right. Naturally, your teacher would not speak of such matters with you. Ironbone Ink Calyx, Mian Sheng, was a renowned pugilist in the martial arts world of Hunan. He had 3 disciples. The eldest one was named Wang Zhenshan, the second Yan Da Ping, the third. Diyun interrupted in shock. "Ding, brother Ding, what did you say?" The third disciple was named Qi Zhangfa. When I heard him declare that he was Mei Nian Sheng, that amount of shock was no less than how shocked you are at this instant. With my very own eyes, I saw the intense battle during the night of the bright moon. I saw the vicious antics of Wan Junshan and his martial brothers. I felt even more horrified than you. Elder Mei gave a bitter laugh, shook his head, and said, "My 3 disciples are the most vicious. They stabbed me while I was off guard. Your elder, I had no choice but to jump into the river, to flee." Diyun trembled. "What? Did my teacher really strike first?" I didn't know what to say to comfort him. In my mind, I thought that there must be a very strong reason why the 4 of them became enemies. But I am an outsider. Even though I was curious, it was not my place to ask. Elder Mei continued, "My only relatives in this world are my 3 disciples. They wanted to take one of my swordplay manuals, but they do not have the mnemonics to go with it. What good is it then? Even though the Lian Cheng's swordplay is miraculous, how can it compare to the heavenly glow? This heavenly glow sutra, I will give it to you. May you practice it well. If this sutra were to be mastered, the power is unthinkable. Do not pass it to any evildoer." And that is how I got my heavenly glow sutra. Mm. Wait, so does Elder May even know who this guy is? Why did he just give it to him? What if this guy was an evildoer? Unless he knew who this guy was. But then it doesn't seem like this guy was famous in any way. This Ding Dian guy. Back then. After Elder May spoke these words, he passed away no longer than 4 hours later. Amidst the 3 gorges, I buried his body in the river. At that time, I did not realize that a deadly secret was of such great significance. So he buried him. So the beggar was not the Grand Master? Unless the Grand Master did some martial arts trick where he pretended to be dead and he crawls out of his grave. So maybe the beggar was the second brother, the second martial uncle. That would make sense too. Yeah, because the three martial, the three martial uncles, they seem to not be on very good terms. Yeah. So maybe the second uncle, if he revealed his identity, then he would be in danger. So that would make sense also. At that time, I did not realize that a deadly secret was of such great significance. I only knew that it was a greatly sought. Wait. I only knew that it was a greatly sought for sword manual in his clan. Hence, I did not consider to keep anything hidden. Hmm. Okay. In front of Elder May's tomb, I established a stone tablet and marked the words, "The tomb of the hero of Lianghu, Elder May." Who would have thought that that stone tablet would cause me so much trouble in the future? Someone had tracked down through the clues of the stone tablet the whereabouts of the stone craftsman and the boatman. Eventually, they figured that since I was the one who established the tablet and buried Elder May, I was the most likely person to have all of Elder May's valuables that he carried. After no more than 3 months, a grand visitor from the realm arrived at my residence. That person had considerable manners, but he mumbled and was not to the point. Eventually, he revealed his true intentions. He said that there was a large map of a treasure deposit that Elder May kept with him, and declared that I was the one who took it. He asked me to take it out so we could both analyze it in detail. If we successfully find the treasures, I would get 7/10 of it, while he would get 3/10. Elder May only gave me a precious internal energy sutra. He also recited several sword mnemonics. He called it something like a deadly secret, but it was only several numbers with no other meaning. From where could there be a treasure map? Okay, so a deadly secret is the Liancheng code. But so the code is only several numbers. So it means something. Okay. So it's not the Liancheng swordplay. Okay. I told him everything truthfully, but the man refused to believe me and insisted that I hand over the martial arts manual. Elder May warned me repeatedly not to transfer it to any evildoers, so naturally I did not tell him anything. The man left in haste. 3 days later, he ventured into my residence in the middle of the night and fought with me. I wounded him in the shoulder, and he retreated in defeat. Soon the word spread. and more people came. I could not handle so many. Eventually, even Wanjun Shun came. I remained at my home in Jingmen and did not dare to go out. Eventually, I had no choice but to conceal my identity and run as fast and far away as I could. I reached a ranch outside the pass and began working a business trading beasts. And with that, 5 or 6 years passed. I could no longer hear any news. In my heart, I deeply wished to return to my family, so I changed my attire and returned to my home in Jingmen. Who would have guessed that the house had long been burned to the earth? Luckily, I did not have any close relatives, so this actually turned out to be a complete stop. Diyun's mind was perplexed. He wanted to not believe it, but Brother Ding had never told a lie to him before. Furthermore, he was as close friends with him as blood brothers. What need was there to fabricate a lie to deceive him? Was it possible that the honest and sincere master that he respected so greatly was in fact a sinister and malicious fellow? He saw Ding Dian's face began to tremble violently. It seemed that the toxicity was spreading. Di Yun said, Brother Ding, my relationship with my master and grandmaster, there is no hurry to investigate. You should think carefully. What can liberate you from your poison? Ding Dian shook his head and replied, I told you not to interrupt. Now listen closely. Those events took place over 9 years ago. On the first third of the ninth month, I reached Hangkou and sold an old ginseng that I had brought from outside the pass to the drugstore. The owner of the drugstore was an elegant man. After we completed our business, he invited me to observe the famous Chrysanthemum Association in Hangkou. This Chrysanthemum Association had an impressive breed of flowers indeed. The yellow chrysanthemums included golden Chinese peonies, yellow crane plums, yellow imperial gowns, golden peacocks, golden lamps, and yellow warbler feathers. The white chrysanthemums included jade peonies, jade carvings, and jade fine jewelry, snow regiments, Diao respects to the moon, and liquid lotuses. The purple chrysanthemums included double flying swallows, red silks, purple jade lotuses, amethyst cups, and cornelian plates. The red chrysanthemums included red beauties, red oceans, drunk consorts, rouge fragrances, lychee brocades, red apex cranes, diluted red Buddhist humbles, red powder regiments, peach blossom chrysanthemums, sushi powders, beautiful red peaches, jade springs. Wow, he's an expert chrysanthemum dude. Ding Dian casually cited every type of chrysanthemum variety with ease. It seemed that he understood flowers even more profoundly than he did martial arts. Diyun felt surprised and strange, but then he recalled that Ding Dian was a flower lover. Thus, the fresh flowers of Lady May outside the windowsill of the prison never stopped changing. So, knowing such a huge variety of chrysanthemum flowers was not anything out of the ordinary. As Ding Dian talked about the names of flowers, from the corner of his mouth one could make out faint smiles. His expression was gentle, and he spoke softly. On one side I observed, on the other side I praised, and recited the various names of the chrysanthemums present. After I thoroughly observed all the flowers and left the garden, I said, This chrysanthemum association is truly remarkable. Unfortunately, there are no green chrysanthemums. Oh my god. Who is this? Is this George Washington? Suddenly, from behind me, I heard the voice of a young girl. My lady, this man too realizes the existence of green chrysanthemums. The spring water jade ripples and jasper wishes. How could normal people have access to these prestigious flowers? I turned my head and saw a young girl of otherworldly delicacy. She wore a tender yellow garment. It was truly a case of being as pale as chrysanthemum. In my entire life, I have never seen such an elegant and exquisite lady. Following her was a servant girl around 14 or 15 years old. When the lady saw me stare at her with such attraction, her face instantly blushed red, and spoke in a soft voice. Sorry, mister, please don't fault us. My servant girl only spoke out casually. At that moment, I was too mesmerized to muster up any reply. Whoever he is, he has a great hairline. That looks like a wig to me. I don't know if he has any hair underneath that. What is this an ad for? This is how they really looked. I'm tempted to click it, but I'm not going to. I watched as she slowly left the garden, but I could not bring myself to speak up. The owner of the drugstore said, "That is the lady of the Ling academics from Wuchang. She is indeed a famous beauty of Wuhan. The flowers and plants in her residence are truly remarkable." Wuchang is a district of Wuhan. Wuhan is the capital of Hubei. After I left the garden and departed with the owner of the drugstore, I returned to the inn. Besides being clouded by thoughts of Lady Ling, nothing else could enter my mind at that moment. By afternoon, I crossed the river to Wuchang, asked for directions, and made my way to the Ling prefecture. But supposing that I simply go in to pay a visit, that would seem too brash. I began to stroll back and forth outside the front door. My mind was a complete mess. I felt happy, yet nervous, and I began to scold myself. At that time, I was not considered a young man, yet I was no different than a little child falling in love for the first time. I turned into a clueless housefly. You have faith in his hairline. You don't believe that he would tell a lie about something? Yeah, that's true. Can't tell a lie. As he said this, his face turned into a light complexion. His eyes turned bright, and he seemed to be excited. Di Yun felt afraid. He was worried that Ding Dian would not be able to endure, and said, Brother Ding, you should have a good rest for now. I will seek a physician to diagnose you. It may not be certain that this poison is incurable. As he said this, he stood up. Ding Dian grabbed him by the sleeve and said, If we go out searching for a physician looking like this, isn't that just seeking our own death? He paused for a moment and continued to speak. Brother D, that day when you heard that your martial sister was getting married, you were so sad that you decided to hang yourself. Your martial sister shows no love or respect for you. It is not worth dying for her. All right. Good time for a 5-minute break. All right, I'll let you guys stew on that, all the information that we just got, and I'll be right back. I ate a few more of the shrimp chips. They're not that bad. I'm gonna upgrade my score to like a 6.5. All right. Ding Dian says, your martial sister shows no love or respect for you. Not worth dying for her. Di Yun nodded. You are right. Over the years, I have come to realize this. Ding Dian said, Suppose that your martial sister loves you deeply and ended up dying for you, then you should die for her too. So, like, so it does seem like the martial sister just doesn't care about him anymore and just chooses to marry that guy. She believed their lies and she just married that guy. Oh, that sucks. Di Yun suddenly came to a realization and asked, "Did Lady Ling die for you?" Ding Dian replied, "Correct. She died for me, and at this moment I wish to die for her. I I feel happy inside. She loves me tenderly. I I also treated her well. Brother D, not to mention the fact that my poison is incurable. Even if it was curable, I do not wish to be treated." All of a sudden, Di Yun felt a feeling of bitter sadness and that was hard to describe. At that point, he felt pain knowing that his companion would soon pass away. But deep in his heart, he actually admired his happiness. Because somewhere in this world once existed a woman who loved him sincerely and was willing to die for him, and he was willing to reciprocate this action. But what about himself? What about himself? Jingdian once again immersed himself in his memories and continued. The front door of the Ling prefecture was colored vermilion, and in front stood two majestic stone lions. I am a man from the realm. How could I just venture inside? I stood guard outside for over 6 hours until nightfall. I didn't even know what I was hoping for. The sky was getting dark, yet I did not think about leaving. All of a sudden, from the small side door, out came a young lady. She slowly approached me and spoke softly. "Fool, are you still here? My lady requests that you leave." I looked closely and recalled that this was the servant girl of Lady Ling. My heart was bouncing all over my chest and stammered a reply. What? What did you say?" She laughed and replied, "My lady and I made a bet on when you would leave. I already won 2 silver rings. Won't you leave?" I was startled and delighted, and replied, "Your lady already knew that I was here?" The servant girl laughed again. "I have already come out several times, but you never saw me once. Your soul wasn't even in your body, am I right?" She laughed again. She laughed again, turned around, and began to walk away. Quickly, I said, "Sister." She said, "What? What do you want?" I replied, "From what I heard, inside the prefecture there are several basins of rare green chrysanthemum. I want to take a look. Would that be all right?" She nodded her head and pointed her finger at a red building near the garden, behind the prefecture, and I said, "I will ask my lady if she agrees. Then she will place the green chrysanthemums on top of the windowsill of the red building." That night, I sat on the slate outside Ling Prefecture. On the morning of the second day, Brother D, I was blessed with good fortune, for 2 basins of pale green chrysanthemums really did appear on top of the windowsill. I knew that one pot was called Spring Water Jade Ripple, while the other was called Jasper Wishes, but the only thing on my mind at the time was the person who put the flowers there. It's cute. They're flower flirting. At that moment, I could see the most beautiful face stealthily half exposed behind the curtains. She gave me a glance. Then, all of a sudden, her face flushed red, and she hid herself behind the curtains and did not reappear. "Brother D, Your brother, I am grotesque in appearance. I am neither rich nor noble. I am nothing more than an uncultivated man from the realm. How could I dare to hope for any beautiful woman to appreciate me? From that day onward, every morning, I would go to the garden of the Ling prefecture and stare at the lady's window for half a day. Lady Ling seemed to remember me, because every day she would change a new basin of flowers and put it on the windowsill. A budding romance? Psyduck. That's pretty good. Not bad. I wish I had a cheering sound effect. That was how 6 months passed. Regardless of wind or rain, frost or snow, I would go every morning to admire the flowers. Lady Ling reciprocated and changed the flowers regardless of the weather. Every day she would only give me only one glance and never a second, and every time she looked at me, her face would blush bright red. As long as I could see her fluid glance and her rosy red cheeks, I was perfectly satisfied. She never spoke to me, nor did I dare to speak out. The truth was, with my martial arts abilities, I could have easily leapt to the window and approached her directly, but I did not once dare to have I did not once dare to have any irreverent ideas. Even more, I did not dare to write a letter to her to express my sincerity. On the night of the 5th of the 3rd month of that year, 2 monks visited my residence and suddenly attacked me. They received relevant information and wanted to steal the Heavenly Glow and Sword Manual. There were 2 of 5 monks from the Blood Saber sect, one of which I took care of in prison, which you saw with your very own eyes. However, at that point in time, I had not mastered the Heavenly Glow, hence my martial arts were not comparable to theirs. As a result, I was wounded greatly by the 2 fearsome monks and nearly lost my life. I hid in a barn fodder and managed to get away. That wound was indeed not minor, for it took me a full 3 months to even generate enough strength to get up. I got out of bed with the support of crutches and made my way to the garden of the Ling prefecture, but all the scenery was gone. I inquired and found out that the Lings had moved 3 months ago. To where they settled, I did not know. Brother Ding, think about it. My disappointment back then was much greater than the injuries I sustained right now. I felt something strange, for I knew that Magistrate Ling was a renowned figure in Wucheng. If he really moved, there was no way that nobody would know where. I inquired and investigated thoroughly from the east to the west, spent a lot of money and energy, yet I still did not have the slightest clue. There was definitely something fishy about it. Clearly, Magistrate Ling was hiding from his enemies. Perhaps there was a special reason that they would so suddenly migrate without a trace. The coincidence was that they moved at the same time as I sustained injuries. From that point onward, no matter what I did, I could not set my mind on it, and I wandered around the depths of the realm. Thankfully, I was blessed with good fortune, for one day in a tea house at Changsha, I overheard a discussion between 2 clan members. They were talking about heading over to Jingzhou to seek Wang Junshan to ask him to hand over the Liancheng sword play. I thought that on that day, Wang Junshan and his martial brothers murdered their teacher for this very sword manual. In regards to what the manual looked like, there was no harm in looking, hence I followed the 2 men to Jianling. Jianling is a county in Jingzhou. Those two clan members really overestimated their capabilities. They headed to the Wan residence and were all captured and sent to the government office in Jingzhou. I decided to follow the crowd. I saw in front of the office was taped a big notice. It was truly a joy from heaven. It turned out that the magistrate was not a stranger, but in fact Lady Ling's father, Ling Tui Si. That night, I secretly held on my hands a basin of roses. I placed it on the windowsill of Lady Ling's residence and waited patiently below. The following morning, the lady opened her window and saw it. She cried out in alarm. She saw me standing outside. We hadn't seen each other in well over a year, and thought that we would not be fortunate enough to see each other ever again. To meet again after such a long period of separation. The joy I felt was truly indescribable. She looked towards my direction for a moment, and her face blushed red. Then she swiftly shut the window. On the third day, she finally spoke out and asked, "Have you fallen ill? You grew a lot thinner." From that point onward, I no longer felt human. I felt like a celestial being from heaven. In fact, even a celestial being would surely not be as happy as I. Every day in the middle of the night, I would head upstairs and invite Lady Ling outside, and together we traveled around the landmarks of Jianling. Never once did we do anything inappropriate, but there was nothing that we did not talk about. No, what did they talk about? We were closer than the most intimate of friends under heaven. One night, Lady Ling revealed a great secret to me. Even though her father was a successful candidate in the Imperial Civil Service examination and was a magistrate, he was actually the leader of the Raspy Dragon sect in Lianghu. Not only was he outstanding in literature, he was also an impressive martial artist. I respected Lady Ling like a deity, so naturally, I also respected her father. Hence, I did not think much of it. On another night, Lady Ling told me that there was an intricate reason why her father did not remain as an imperial secretary, and rather spent many thousands of taels of silver to request to be a prefectural magistrate in Jingzhou. It turned out that from the history books he figured out that in the grounds of Jingzhou was buried an immense treasure. Oh, is that the code? The Liancheng code? A deadly secret? Lady Ling said that during the time of the Six Dynasties, Emperor Wu of Liang died in a rebellion. Emperor Jiangwen of Liang took the throne, but two fell in the hands of the rebel Hou Jing. So Hou Jing was a general of the Liang dynasty. He controlled the Liang imperial regime for several years and usurped the Liang throne, establishing a state of Han. He was defeated by Xiao Yi. He was one of the most reviled figures in Chinese history, known for his exceeding cruelty to enemies and civilians. So the throne fell in the hands of the rebel Hou Jing. His successor, King Xiao Yi of Xiandong, relocated to Jianling and became Emperor Yuan of Liang. Emperor Yuan was weak and incompetent, and took a liking in gathering precious valuables. In the 3 years that he was emperor in Jianling, the treasures he extorted were countless. On the 3rd year of the Chen Sheng era, Wei soldiers broke through Jianling and killed Emperor Yuan, but no one knew the location of the treasures he extorted over the years. The era of Emperor Yuan's reign. Okay. 552 to 554. That's the Chunsheng era. The way Marshal Yu Jin flogged and murdered thousands of people trying to find the whereabouts of the treasure, but it was all in vain. He was afraid that the ones who knew the whereabouts of the treasure would excavate it in the future, so he murdered several tens of thousands of citizens from Jianling all the way to Chang'an. Most were murdered or victimized, and there were practically no survivors. Over the course of several hundred years, the secret was never discovered. As time passed, there was even less of a chance that anyone would know. Lady Ling said that her father spent many years and investigated the government in Qingzhou, as well as many different kinds of ancient books and records. He confirmed that Emperor Yuan's treasures were buried on the ground outside the city of Jianling. Emperor Yuan was violent and ruthless. Presumably, after burying the treasures, he killed anyone who knew of the secret. Hence, the Wei Marshal could not figure out its location, no matter how many innocent citizens he tortured or interrogated. Du Yun heard up to this point, and he began to put the pieces of the puzzle together. He said, "Brother Ding, you know the secret of the treasure deposit. Am I right? So many people came to prison to seek you. Presumably, they must have come for the treasure deposit." Dingan gave a bitter smile and continued to speak. Upon hearing Lady Ling speak these words to me, I could not help but feel that her father had a heart full of greed. He was already all rounded in literature and martial arts, and he was rich and noble. Why still seek out the treasure deposit? Later I discussed with her the various peculiarities of the realm. I did not conceal from her the incident by the river, where Wan Zhenshun and his martial brothers were trying to kill their teacher. I also told her about the heavenly glow and a deadly secret, and so forth. We experienced over half a year of happy days. One day, on the 14th of the 7th month, Lady Ling said, "Dinga, I have told father about our relationship. We will let him decide. Then we won't have to be sneaky like this anymore." Before she could finish her sentence, Before she could finish her sentence, she leaned her head against my chest. I replied, "You are a precious lady from a great family. I'm afraid that your father will look down on me." She replied, "My ancestors were also people from the martial world, only that my father opted to become an official, and I don't know the slightest bit of martial arts. My father loves me more than anything. Ever since my mother passed away, no matter what I ask for, he will always permit it." So she's super spoiled. Once I heard her say this, I was naturally overjoyed. The next day I was so ecstatic I could not sleep. I waited until midnight to visit Lady Ling in her residence. Her face blushed red, and she said to me, "Father said he will leave the decision all up to me." I was so happy. I felt like a big silly melon. Is that what you feel like? The two of us looked at each other and could only laugh heartily. We held hands and went downstairs, when suddenly, under the moonlight, one could see in the garden several basins of particularly lovely and colorful flowers. The petals of these flowers were as yellow as gold and shone brightly. The flower looked like a lotus, but it was not as big as a lotus. The two of us both shared a great passion for flowers, so immediately we went to admire them. Lady Ling felt strange, for she had never seen this type of yellow flower before. We both got closer to smell the flowers. We wanted to know the fragrance of it. Uh-oh. Diyun heard Dingdian recount his past events. Under the moonlight, holding hands and admiring beautiful flowers with the one you love, such an ordeal must have been far greater than even the most pleasant of experiences endured by celestial beings from heaven. However, from his intonation, one could sense a gloomy and terrifying side to it. Yun listened so attentively that he could not breathe easily, as if there were really evil spirits who wanted to possess your body in the abandoned garden. All of a sudden, he thought of a name and declared, "Golden Ripple Flower." Ding Dian uttered a faint and bitter smile from the corner of his mouth. After a while, he said, "Brother, your intelligence is not low. In the future, when you wander around the realm by yourself, you should not be at a disadvantage. Then I will be at ease." Upon hearing these words full of concern and friendship, Di Yun's eyes could not help but brim with tears of excitement. He said angrily, "That dog official from Ling Prefecture, if he doesn't want to betroth his daughter to you, then so be it. Why set up such a vicious ruse to harm you?" Ding Dian said, "At that time, how would I have guessed? Even more, how would I know that the beautiful yellow flower was in fact the fully toxic golden ripple flower? The two words full ripple are Sanskrit for demon. The toxic flower originated from Tianzhu. The citizens of Tianzhu call this flower the demon flower. As soon as I sniffed the fragrance, I felt dizzy. I only saw Lady Ling dazzle and faint. I tried to extend my hands to assist her, but I could barely keep my own balance. Immediately, I began to channel my internal energy to harmonize my body to resist the poison, when all of a sudden, from the shadows appeared several men wielding bladed weapons. I fought several stances with them before my vision turned pitch black. After that, I don't know what happened. When I woke up, my hands and feet were shackled, and my scapula was pierced. Magistrate Ling wore informal clothing and initiated a court trial in the Flower Hall. Accompanying him were not feudal tenants of the prefecture, but were members from his clan. I was obstinate and yelled and screamed. Magistrate Ling ordered men to give me a fierce beating. He wanted to force me to hand over the heavenly glow and sword manual. What happened after that, you already know. On the 15th of every month, Magistrate Ling will order his men to give me a vicious beating, to coerce me to hand over the martial arts and sword manual. But I never once conceded. He was indeed a very patient man. Di Yun asked, "What about Lady Ling? Why didn't she devise a plan to save you? And after you completed the martial arts of the heavenly glow, you could have left prison at any time. Why didn't you go and have a look? Why did you remain in prison until she died?" Ding Dian's mind suddenly suffered a burst of violent giddiness. His entire body felt like it was floating in the air, dancing in the breeze. He extended his hands and began to scratch frantically for support. Di Yun extended his hands to help him. Ding Dian became startled and repelled him and said, "My hands are poisonous. Don't touch it." Di Yun could only feel sorry inside. Ding Dian fainted for a while, then gradually regained consciousness. He asked, what did you say earlier?" Di Yun suddenly remembered what he wanted to say. "Brother Ding, have you ever considered that Lady Ling was subjected to her father's injunction and deceived you deliberately? She wanted to—" Ding Dian interrupted him with a loud shout. "Bullshit!" With the fist he wanted to hit Di Yun. Di Yun knew that he spoke without discretion and did not defend himself. He was willing to take the hit. But he did not expect Ding Dian to stop his fist in midair. Ding Dian stared at Di Yun for a short moment, then retracted his fists and said, "Brother, Only because you suffered a misfortune from women do you think that all women in the world are untrustworthy. I would not blame you. If Shuanghua really was under her father's command and devised a sexual entrapment to try and take my heavenly glow and a deadly secret, then that would be really easy. Why would she lie to me? She only has to say, "Give me the heavenly glow and a deadly secret." Even if she so much as implied, so much as hinted that she wanted these things, I would have given it to her right away. She could give it to her father or give it to a beggar on the streets. Beggar? She could even destroy it or burn it. I would not crease my eyebrows for even a moment. Brother D, even though these are remarkable treasures in the martial arts world, compared to Shuanghua, in my heart, the heavenly glow and a deadly secret are nothing more than trash. Ling Tui-su claims to excel in literature and martial arts in vain. He is actually an idiot. If he told his daughter to ask for the treasures, how could I refuse? Li Yun said, maybe he once told Lady Ling about this, but Lady Ling would not agree. Ding Dian shook his head. If something like that really happened, Shuanghua would never hide it from me. He sighed a few times and continued, Ah, a person like Ling Tui-su takes position and wealth, gold and valuables very seriously. He uses himself as a measure for others. He thinks that the rest of the world, too, thinks so highly of wealth and riches. He thought that if his daughter were to ask me, I would certainly refuse. But it was quite the contrary, for it actually increased my vigilance. There is also another reason. He is an imperial secretary and a magistrate, yet his daughter, in secret, developed a close relationship with an uncultivated man like me. He must hate me for disgracing his family and wants to kill me at any cost. After he captured me, he immediately began a search on my body, but he did not find anything. He also thoroughly searched my residence, but still he could not find anything. Every month on the 15th, he would remind me that I would be beaten. He said every possible persuasive word he could think of. He even tried to threaten and intimidate me. But still I did not concede. He could not from my mouth extract even half a word of truth. On the contrary, I actually gained some valuable information from his interrogations. It turned out that a deadly secret that Elder Mei Niansheng spoke of is precisely used to seek out the secrets of Emperor Liang's treasure deposits. Ah, it is. Ling Tui-su even tried to send spies into prison and confine them with me in hopes of finding information through tactful, indirect questioning. This person pretended to suffer great injustice and would consistently curse Ling Tui-su as a bad person. But right away, I could already tell that that person was a fake. Unfortunately, at that time, I did not yet complete the heavenly glow, and I did not have much strength in my body, so I was not as tough as him. After speaking up to this point, Ding Dian let out a faint smile from the corner of his mouth and said, You were definitely unlucky to be unjustly beaten by me in vain. If you had not attempted suicide, by now you probably would have been beaten to death. Di Yun said, I was framed by others, if not for Big Brother. Ding Dian waved his left hand back and forth. He did not want Di Yun to continue. He said, It is all a chance of fate. In this world, everything leads to the word fate. Ding Dian fixed his eyes on a certain object. Under the moonlight, amidst the debris in the corner of the abandoned garden, grew a small purple flower swaying in the wind. It gave off a sense of loneliness and mournfulness. He said, Help me pluck the flower. Diyun did as he was told and handed him the flower. Dingan held on to the small purple flower and said slowly, "With my scapula pierced and my body in prison, I figured everything out. Ling Tuisu most definitely wanted to kill me. The sooner I hand over the sutra and manual, the sooner he would kill me. But if I didn't speak, he would actually not kill me, for there was always a chance that I would concede. All he could do was torture me and beat me. He wanted me to suffer the depths of external pain, but he would not actually hit me in my vital areas." Di Yun said, "Correct. That day, when I pretended to want to kill you, the jailer actually became alarmed and did not dare to be too vicious." Ding Dian held on to the small flower and slowly swayed his fingers. The purple flower, too, began to sway in the wind. He continued, "I was confined in prison for well over a month. I became so frustrated and anxious, I nearly went insane. One night, a small servant girl approached me. It was actually the close servant girl and chrysanthemum friend of Lady Ling I had encountered from the chrysanthemum meet. She was the person I met Shuanghua back at Wucheng. I wasn't sure how much money Shuanghua spent to persuade the jailers to let the servant girl see me. However, my chrysanthemum friend did not speak to me once, nor did she hand anything to me. She merely stared at me, expressionless. In the jailer's hands was a sharp saber pointed at her back. I realized that the jailer was indeed very afraid of Magistrate Ling, so he could only let the girl see me, but would not let her speak. My chrysanthemum friend stared at me for a few moments, and slowly tears began to drip from her eyes. The jailer gave continuous hand gestures and signaled for her to leave. My chrysanthemum friend saw that in the courtyard outside the prison grew a small chrysanthemum flower. She fetched it for me and handed it to me through the iron fence. She then pointed at the windowsill of the distant building outside the prison. A fresh basin of flowers was placed on top of the windowsill. My heart became filled with delight, for I knew that the flowers were placed by Shuanghua as a means to keep me company. My chrysanthemum friend could not stay any longer and turned her back to leave. She slowly approached the exit when suddenly, from up high, an arrow was shot and pierced right through her heart. She died instantly. It turned out that Ling Tuisu was afraid that my friend would break me out of prison, so he had men prepare an ambush from the roof. A second arrow soon followed, and the jailer too lost his life. At that time, I was scared out of my wits. I was afraid that Ling Tuisu may be so harsh and unreasonable that he may even kill his own daughter. I did not dare to provoke him any further. Every time he came to interrogate me, I pretended to be deaf and mute. Bells for the chrysanthemum friend? Oh, poor girl. My chrysanthemum friend died for me. If not for her, how would I have survived these past few years? How would I know that the flowers on the windowsill were placed by Shuanghua? However, Shuanghua never once appeared in front of me. She never once peeked from her window to give me a glance. I did not understand why. Sometimes I even faulted her. How could she be so cruel? As a result, I decided to focus my attention on my training. I practiced the heavenly glow relentlessly, for I knew that once I completed it, I would no longer be constrained by these iron chains. I could only hope to escape and take Shuanghua with me to a faraway place. However, the heavenly glow was a skill that required exquisite attention. It was not a martial arts that could merely be completed through rigorous training. Furthermore, my scapula was pierced, and my leg muscles were weak, so naturally it was several times harder for me to complete my training than anyone else. It was not until several months ago, when you attempted suicide, did I finally complete my training. I only made it through these desperate times thanks to the consolation of the basin of fresh flowers. Ling Tui Su tried so many tactics and techniques to try and sheathe my secret. He imprisoned you together with me. It must have been part of his plan. He knew that if he sends a fake person to deceive me, it would never work. So he actually sent a truly innocent young man together with me. As time passed, I would be able to distinguish between true and false. And once I became good friends with you, I would reveal all my secrets to you. Even if he cannot find any information through interrogating me, he could more or less make you his target instead. You are young and ignorant, honest and sincere. If someone pretends to be a good person, you would easily be deceived. However, all along I did not trust you. I myself was held captive. My chrysanthemum friend died unjustly. I can trust no one. After many years, Ling Tui Su's position as the magistrate of Jingzhou had been fulfilled. Either he would be transferred or promoted to a higher rank. After much consideration, he used money to deny his own promotion and transfer. He did not want a higher rank. All he wanted was the treasure deposit. You thought I never went out of prison before? As soon as I completed the heavenly glow, that was the first thing I did. However, before I left, I sealed your lethargic acupoint, so naturally you did not know. I thought that as soon as I jumped over the prison wall, an intense battle was inevitable. However, after so many years, Ling Tui Su no longer maintained such strict defenses. The guards outside had dispersed a long time ago. He never would have guessed that heavenly glow was indeed so miraculous. Even after having my scapula pierced and my leg tendons cracked, I could still complete such a remarkable martial art. After I arrived at the window of the high building, my heart began to beat intensely. It seemed that I could remember the feelings I had during the very first time I met her in the same scenario. At last, I gathered up enough courage and knocked on the window 3 times, yelling, "Shuanghua!" From her dreams, she suddenly woke up. In a blur, she shouted, "Tiange, is it really you? Am I dreaming?" After so many painstaking days, at last, I could finally hear her voice once again. My heart was filled with so much joy, I nearly exploded. I trembled in my speech. "Shuang Mei, it's me. I escaped." I waited for her to open the window. In the past, every time we met, I would wait until she opened the window and wave at me before I went in. I never directly ventured into her room before. However, I did not expect that she would not open it. She put her face next to it and spoke softly. "Thank the heavens and earth, Dinga, you are alive and well. My father did not deceive me." My voice became bitter, and I replied, "Yeah, your father did not deceive you. I am still alive. Please, open the window. I want to see you." She hurriedly said, "No, no, I can't." My heart sank instantly. I asked, "Why not?" She said, "I promised my father, as soon as he doesn't kill you, I can never see you again. He made me swear it. If I ever see you again, my mother will be bullied by evil spirits in the other world." She began to choke with sobs. The year she turned 13, she lost her mother. She treated her mother with utmost respect. I hated Ling Tui Shu and his ruthless and cruel nature. The only reason he did not kill me was so he could get my sutra and sword manual. Shuanghua did not even have to swear such a vicious oath. He decided not to kill me, Yet he still forced his daughter to pledge never to see me again. This oath turned any of my hopes into mere soap bubbles. But I refused to give up. I said, Shuanghua, leave with me. You can cover your eyes with a cloth, then you never have to see me again. She cried and replied, That doesn't work either. I don't want you to see me again. The pain and sorrow in my heart I gathered through all these years suddenly exploded all at once. I yelled, Why? I must see you. She heard the sadness in my voice and replied gently, Dingan, after I found out that you were captured by my father, I begged him relentlessly to set you free. However, he decided to engage me to another person so as to fully end our relationship. No matter how I pleaded, he would not hear of it. He forced me into submission. Thereupon, I used a knife and mutilated my own face. Bum bum bum. When he heard this, Di Yun could not help but let out an ah in reply. Ding Dian said, I was grateful, yet felt pitiful at the same time. With a hard palm, I smashed the window with a resounding blow. She was taken aback and closed her eyes. She covered her face with her hands, but I had already seen it all. The most beautiful face under heaven had been disfigured by over a dozen vicious slashes of the knife. Her flesh could be seen, many streaks of fresh red strokes. Her beautiful eyes, her nose, and her beautiful mouth all were crooked and mutilated. Her appearance was as horrifying as a demon. I extended my hands and hugged her tightly on my chest. She was the one who cared greatly for her own image. If not for an inauspicious man like myself, how would she let her face suffer even the slightest bit of damage? I said, Shuangmei, how can beauty compare to love? Your face was mutilated because of me. In my heart, you are 10 times, no, 100 times more beautiful than you were before. She cried. We have already gotten to this point. How can we stay together? I promised my father that I would never see you again. Dingan, please leave. I knew that at this point nothing could change what had already happened. I said, Shuangmei, if I return to prison, all I can see every day are the beautiful basins of flowers you place on the windowsill. She cried and threw herself to me and declared, Don't leave. We cuddled and leaned on each other intimately. We did not speak a single word. She did not dare to look at me, nor did I dare to look at her. Of course, I did not resent her ugliness, but her face was indeed damaged beyond belief. After a very long while, she distanced herself and wept. Dingan, I cannot harm my deceased mother. You should never see me again. I asked, The two of us can never see each other again? She cried, We will never meet again. I can only hope that the two of us will be buried together after death. If there is such a kind fellow who can grant me this wish in another world, I will pray to Buddha and bless that person every day. I said, I've got it. I know a deadly secret is precisely the secret of the treasure deposit of Emperor Liang of the Yuan dynasty. I will tell it to you. Listen closely. She said, I don't want to remember. Why would I want to know it? My father is so obsessed with this treasure that he harmed you greatly. Dingan, I don't want to hear it. I said, You have to find an honest and reliable person. If he agrees to fulfill our wish of being buried together, then you can reveal to him the sword mnemonics. She said, For the rest of my life, I do not want to leave this building. With such a horrifying appearance, how can I dare to see anyone? But after further contemplation, she replied, Fine, tell it to me. Dinga, I want to be buried with you at any cost. Even if I have to beg someone with this ugly appearance, then so be it. Thereupon, I told her the sword mnemonics in its entirety. She listened very attentively. Dawn was fast approaching. We said our farewells and departed, and I returned to prison. From that point on, I could enter or leave the prison at will, but every day I longed to see the flowers she placed on the window, so I never wanted to leave. Someone wanted to assassinate Ling Tui-su, and I actually saved him because if Ling Tui-su really died, then Shuanghua would be all alone with nobody left to take care of her. As he said this, his voice began to reduce to nothingness. Di Yun said, Don't worry, big brother. If you really don't recover from this poison, I will bury you together with Lady Ling. However, I do not wish to hear these rare sword mnemonics. If you speak them, I don't want to listen. Dingan laughed and said, Ha 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 ha. You are truly a good brother. Our friendship was not in vain. Since you promised to bury us together, I can die in peace. I am very happy. The more he spoke, the softer his voice became. He continued, If you do find the treasure deposit, you do not have to hog all the riches to yourself. Instead, you can use it to assist the many miserable people in this world. People like me, or you. Under heaven there are plenty. But if you do not listen to a deadly secret, then upon my death it will disappear forever. Isn't that a shame? Diyun nodded in approval. This story is so tragic. I know. Even moments of hope are crushed. Maybe there will be a happy ending yet. I'm sure at the end it will be a happy ending. You know? We gotta pile on the tragicness. The tragedy? We gotta pile on the tragedy in the beginning. And at the end, we'll have a happy ending. Okay? Yeah. I think that's what's gonna happen. Ding Dian took a very deep breath and said, Listen closely. I am going to tell you a few numbers. You mustn't get it wrong. Di Yun gave his undivided attention. What if he forgets? Whoops. Ding Dian said, The first number is 4. The second number is 41. The third number is 33. The fourth number is 53. Di Yun had only begun to immerse himself when suddenly, outside the abandoned garden, approaching footsteps could be heard. Someone said, Search inside the garden! Ding Dian's face changed colors and he suddenly jumped. Di Yun jumped as well. From the back door of the abandoned garden approached 3 vicious men. And we're good with the chapter. Cool. How do you guys like it? Wait, oh, God, wine. All right, I'll be right back. Not the main character, but Ding Dian is up there with all the main characters we've followed so far. Ding Dian's pretty cool. Yeah, yeah. Seems like a pretty righteous guy. All right, cheers. Yep, a lot of tragedy. A lot of bad things happening. What is the wine for tonight? It's a sake. It's a daiginjo. Wait. Can't really read it. Okay. So Dingan was not the second uncle, the second martial uncle. Okay. A lot of secrets were revealed today. So it doesn't look like the beggar is the Grand Master. What do you guys think? Because Ding Dian said he buried him. So yeah, how could the beggar be the Grand Master? So the beggar could be the second brother, the second uncle. Yeah, and it kind of makes sense. Yeah, since the three brothers are not on good terms, so yeah, so if he revealed his identity, he would be in danger. His life would be in danger. So I think that makes sense. Yeah, but he seems to be like a good dude. Maybe the second brother was a good dude. Doesn't seem like it if he fought his master, but did he turn good? Yeah, maybe. Or maybe he taught Di Yun martial arts for some other reason. Maybe he had a devious reason for teaching Di Yun martial arts. I don't know. Or you can say that, people are not all good and all bad. Maybe he was bad in that he attacked his master, but he is still has some good qualities to him because he didn't want to see Di Yun be bullied. Oh yeah, he taught Di Yun to beat up Master Wan's son. Yeah, so maybe he just wanted Di Yun to beat up the people of the Wan family. Maybe. He didn't care about Di Yun at all. Could be. Yeah. But like the beggar can't just be a normal, like some random guy, right? That we haven't heard of. So it must be the second brother. Yeah. Okay, that's my working theory, okay? He's the second brother. And looks like Di Yun's master is not a good dude. Seems to be a bad dude. Yeah. Yeah. This whole clan is full of not good dudes. Anyways. Yeah. And then Di Yun looks like he's gonna die. Too bad. You're sure he'll show up again? He's definitely showing up again. Alright. Cool. I like that chapter. I want to see what happens next. Alright, guys. Well, thanks for joining. Okay. Pretty dirty trick to introduce the story with throwing poop and toilet water and quickly descend into this ultra depressing story. Yeah, let's hope it's not too depressing. Alright, guys. Thanks for joining. I love you, and I will see you next time. Bye.